to call this special meeting of the Parks Board of the Board of Parks and Recreation to order. Can you all hear me? I hear a little feedback. Are we good? I'm Michelle Cummings-Steele, Chair of the Board of Parks and Recreation. I want to thank you all so much for being here this evening. The purpose of this meeting is designed to give board members as well as the public the latest information from the team that has been involved at varying levels in our issue at Brook Park. So we want to make sure that we can hear from everyone this evening that has been involved, our team that has been involved. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I do want to acknowledge any council members present. How do you want to? So if you could stand so that we could acknowledge you. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. Are there any other elected officials? All righty, we're going to move forward. We want to acknowledge the participation of our departments. We have from the Mayor's Office, Kristen Wilson, Chief Operations and Performance Officer, Homeless Impact Division, April Calvin, the Director. From Metro Parks, we have Jason Proctor, Parks Police Chief. We have from the Health Department, Hugh Atkins, Bureau Director for Environmental Health Services. And if you would come, Kristen Wilson, thank you. If you could come and address the Parks Board, I believe this is the podium we're speaking from. If you could come and just tell us where we are from the Mayor's Office.
Sure, thank you, and thanks for having us. This is a really important conversation today. Good evening.
Good evening.
As we've come out of the immediate responses to the pandemic, homelessness has become one of our greatest community challenges. Like all emergencies, the pandemic has shed a very bright light on some of our greatest inequities and most vulnerable citizens. This was further exacerbated across the nation by CDC recommendations to allow encampments and outdoor sheltering to persist for a period of time. Those recommendations completed over a year ago, but left many cities, including Nashville then, with an enlarged outdoor population that all of us across the country have been struggling to address. As a matter of fact, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has put out some special funding. We're in a process right now working on our response that is specific to unsheltered populations, and we hope it turns into some ongoing sustainable solutions for us as we bridge out of CARES and American Rescue Plan funding. Local government, our metro government, plays a critical role in this need, but we also know we can't solve these challenges alone. We're part of a collective within Metro and with partners outside of Metro. Within Metro, we perform roles that you'll hear about further today, such as our Metro Homeless Impact Division on its journey to becoming the Office of Homelessness, engages in activities such as outreach, connection to housing and services, expertise, and leadership. They house the information, they help facilitate the day-to-day collective process of moving our homeless into housing. They seek to grow and align community resources through local community collective work with service providers, with other government agencies like MDHA or the VA, with nonprofits, churches, etc. They also coordinate heavily with a lot of our other operating departments. MNPD, the Metro Nashville Police Department, MNFD, the Fire Department, which has our EMS capability, and our health department, their focus is on safety across the entire county and for all populations, whether they're housed or unhoused. There are a lot of vulnerabilities in our homeless community. Some of those are preyed upon, which is very concerning to us, and which for sure we have seen in the crime stats and the data around the Brook encampment. Further, the longer someone is unsheltered and homeless, the worse the health outcomes. We know this, whether physical or mental. We know from science that the longer someone's unsheltered or suffers disabilities related to homeless, the greater the risks to their own physical and emotional health, and our safety agencies are pulled into supporting those needs to a greater and greater degree as long as these encampments persist. Finally, parks, NDOT, other infrastructure departments, they play a really important supporting role. There are lots of impacts on our infrastructure from our homeless challenges, and there's a lot of maintenance, cleaning, ongoing repair. I want to really recognize that all of these agencies have been stretched in ways that they have not been stretched before as our unsheltered population has grown. And I really want to say thanks to a lot of these departments, a lot of the people who work on the ground on a day-to-day basis in these communities in response. We have too many people right now in unsafe and unhealthy conditions in our encampments. Let's talk a little bit about the solutions we're looking at from a broader collective. There are a lot of different pieces to this. As I said, Metro has one role to it. The federal government, HUD is the largest funder of homeless services in every community, and we're no exception, and we shouldn't be. And they're expanding their funding on an urgent crisis basis to try to help out communities, particularly, again, with their unsheltered populations. The state has a really important role, particularly historically in behavioral health across different communities and healthcare. And at this point in time, we've had some promising conversations with them and some interest expressed in helping. Service providers, faith-based businesses, philanthropy, they're all organized in what we call the Continuum of Care, which is a local planning body that Metro participates in and facilitates. And as the national conversation has shifted and moved in the direction of better documenting best practices, certainly unsheltered, chronic unsheltered populations have become a key priority from this community-based effort, which is really important. So through this community-based effort, Mayor John Cooper's proposed investing an unprecedented $50 million of funds from the American Rescue Plan to address the urgent need of unsheltered homelessness in Nashville. Working together with this collective effort, community leaders, our Homeless Impact Division, a group of national experts, we've designed a plan of action to maximize the impact of this investment. The thing about this $50 million in funding, the way we structured is we don't only want it to help people, we want it to help people, let me reassure you, but we want to sustain a system that performs at a higher level. And so both in connecting to various HUD funding streams, looking at ways we can leverage that funding, looking at ways we can recruit landlords, developers, other people who have not been at the table in the way we need in our community. There's a lot of that built into the plan as well. I'm not going to go into it in detail. There's been a lot of media coverage, and I know you have a busy agenda, but I'll ask April to spend a little bit of time also when she speaks. I do want to get more specifically over to Brook. The suffering and unsafe, unhealthy conditions in encampments across the city cannot continue. What we're hopeful is that this $50 million plan will provide us the resources to ensure that people living in those encampments have stable housing options and the wraparound support to stay living in them. And so that's how we put ourselves in a position to get people out of encampments and receiving the help that they need. And we are very hopeful in the weeks ahead as we take this process and this proposal through council, the sooner we can deploy these resources. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions from the board for Ms. Wilson at this time? Okay, thank you so much. I want to hear from April Calvin, Director of Homeless Impact Division.
Hello there, thank you for the invite to Parks Board. This is my first. I've been with the Homeless Impact Division for about 8 years, but I've worked in homeless efforts for at least 26 years here in Nashville. I'll say that this is the first time that I've felt that we have been able to halfway or nearly meet the need with the funding demands and the resources available. You probably have heard me say several times that, you know, we have the political will and we have the public will, and now we have the resources and the funds to meet that. A lot of the things that I was going to say, lovely Kristen Wilson had already covered, so I won't talk to you about our team. I will say that some of my Homeless Impact Division team members are here today. Our outreach team spends tireless efforts and hours out to help meet the need in the community. But a lot of this work is never done in silos. It's done with our community partners. We're working on a strategic plan for the overall COC, and then also an outdoor encampment strategic plan. Several of the people here in the audience have been a part of that encampment work. We are working super hard to come up with a strategic plan and a process that will help move the people into permanent housing, along with the efforts of the proposed $50 million. I'll talk a little bit about that as it relates to the different funding pockets of initiatives. There is a $25 million initiative for permanent supportive housing. And that is really to help with bringing on new development opportunities, coordinating the units to be earmarked for people that are considered the most vulnerable. You probably have heard us talk a little bit about chronic homelessness and that HUD definition that we use. And it's really great when local funds are in alignment with federal funds. So the federal funds that are being earmarked for this year, first of its kind, it's called the SNOFO, right? That's what we call it. It's the Supplemental Notice of Funding Opportunity for the COC to address outdoor homelessness. So as I talk about funds, I just want to make sure that you all know that we're utilizing and leveraging funds, not just local dollars, but federal dollars also to help combat this problem. So back to the mayor's proposed Housing First $50 million, sorry. I got excited about the funding opportunities that were available. So there's $9 million in support services. What we know is housing alone will not solve this problem. Providing the intensive wraparound community services, community deployed services to help meet people where they are, walk them into their door, and help them to understand how to maintain that. Whether it's an ACT team, which is a assertive community treatment team, or intensive case management, we're looking at opportunities for peer-to-peer mentor, which are all things that are deemed as best practices for HUD. There is another $9 million for interim gap housing, which will help to meet the need and bring units on board almost immediately once the funds are deployed. And then there's $3 million that will help with landlord engagement, bringing on some of the mom and pop smaller landlords that have units that they can't really afford to bring up to scale to meet the demands of a subsidy or requirements and qualifications for fair housing. And also helping with furniture, because if they've been outside for an extended amount of time, furniture is a huge need. So our social workers throughout Nashville have worked super hard in finding housing opportunities for the individuals. We have the landlord engagement department that is housed out of our department. That's a collective of community partners that call themselves the Low Barrier Housing Collective. And then there's a $4 million fund for competitive, innovative grants of local nonprofits, where federal dollars may have certain requirements or things that you can only spend the money on. So we just want to make sure that we have opportunities for innovative approaches as well. So there's a lot going on in Nashville. I do want you all to know that the Homeless Impact Division takes pride in helping our community be able to move the ball on homelessness and all of the efforts that our community partners. It's a comprehensive approach that's going on here in Nashville. There's several COC meetings. We have a Homeless Planning Council board as well, and I welcome you all to attend that as well.
Are there any questions? Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the board?
Yeah, I'd love to ask about the timing, when the timing of rolling these out, and then how long do you see the funding being spent? How long is it?
Those are great questions. I will say never, ever, ever do we want to get in front of Metro Council. So a lot of this is dependent on the vote in October for the funds. And then some of them will come online immediately. We do like the interim gap housing. We have some units that can come online immediately. The permanent housing options are anywhere between 12 to 18 months. There's a lot of properties or developments that's pretty near finished. and landlord engagement department at my office. Will just depend on how fast we can scale up with staffing.
Okay. I think, let me ask this question. The timeline on the strategic plan, you all are already in process of the strategic planning?
Absolutely. So the COC is, we've been working on a strategic plan refresh. There was one 3 years ago that was derailed due to COVID. And so we're looking to refresh that, fine tune it, and put some metrics with it so that that will start that process. But a subpopulation or a subgroup of that is the outdoor encampment plan. A lot of community providers have been working on that. That is near finished. We're just gonna put some metro polish on it a little bit, and then once these funds are deployed, we will use that in outdoor encampment strategy to help with housing and prioritizing people.
And that's in this quarter?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Thank you so much. Move now to Metro Parks, Jason Proctor, Police Captain.
Thank you and good evening. As mentioned, I'm Captain Jason Proctor of the MNPD, and I'm currently assigned to the Metro Park Police. In this capacity, I oversee the Metro Park Police daily operations, and I work really closely between Parks and the police department for that liaison type position. In doing so, I also work with Commander Corman really close, who is unable to be here, so I'll also give the West update at the same time. And especially Corman and I have been working really close when it comes to the Brook Park. The park police itself is limited in resources, and we're currently rebuilding our staff so we can better cover our 178 area parks and 99 miles of greenway. With limited staffing, once again, we rely heavily with the West Precinct's quality of life team, which I'll speak on here just shortly. To speak directly to Brookmead, the officers assigned to the West Precinct, along with Park Police, are committed to working with our partners at the Metro Homeless Impact Division to find long-term solutions so we're not just relocating individuals without services. We understand that we are not going to arrest our way out of the homelessness, nor do we wish to penalize people experiencing poverty. This is not to say that we're ignoring crime taking place in the park, as we still look to make arrests when needed, especially when we're dealing with drugs, assaults, other personal crimes, and when there's warrants for people's arrest. A lot of the warrants that we're seeing are for thefts, in which a person gets identified for thefts in the area, a warrant gets taken out for them, and then we go serve those warrants. In addition to those services, we're working closely with other MNPD units to address the people that are actually bringing that criminal element into the park area. And a lot of those are uniformed as well as non-uniformed officers working operations. The work being done in Brookmead is consistent with MNPD's precision-based policing strategies, in which officers are working to earn the respect of the individuals in the parks by treating the individuals with dignity and respect so that we can assist in identifying the individuals that are doing the most harm in that community, as well as trying to provide their trust so when our service providers do come in, they're more likely to address those and take those services. As mentioned, we rely heavily on the work Commander Corman and his officers assigned to the West Precinct Quality of Life Team. The Quality of Life Team consists of Sergeant Matt Valaquette, Officer Alan Cantrell, and Officer Brian Howland. These officers are often the most consistent and most visible service providers in the Brookmead Park. They work daily with individuals in Brookmead to build relationships and garner the trust of those individuals. When speaking with the officers on the Quality of Life Team, they feel the largest issues they face is the need for mental health services and long-term drug abuse treatment. As far as drugs, they're seeing heroin and meth as the primary drugs of choice. Officer Alan Cantrell has been working the area for more than 10 years in the West Precinct. He's been on the department for 22 years. For the last almost 2 years, he's been assigned to the Quality of Life Team. Over the past 2 years, he has seen the park with 100 individuals drop approximately to 50. Of those, 36 of those individuals have taken the housing options. He reported back about a third of those, after taking the housing option, find their way back to the park. Which I think brings credit to what April was talking about. It has to be the wraparound services, not only the housing that goes along with that. The great work that the officers as well as our partnering service providers are doing often get lost in this conversation, but they really are doing some great works across the city and in Brookmead Park, and for that we're extremely grateful. And that's all I have.
Any questions for, I'm sorry, Commander, what's your name? Jason Proctor. I'm sorry.
Do you have any statistics on how many arrests, like in the last year, been made in Brookmead? Because I know there's so much illegal. I said, do you have any statistics on how many arrests at Brookmead there have been? Because we do know there's a lot of illegal activity there.
I don't have that information on hand. I can get that back to you. But once again, when you're looking at the actual park itself, one of the things they've really focused on is the RPA. So the RPA is going to be a little bit more condensed. As police are broken into precincts and zones, the RPAs are going to be a lot more condensed. A lot of the criminal element that we're seeing there in the park is also with the Lowe's, the Walmart, the Thorntons, the area businesses. Once again, that's where our thefts are occurring from. That's where our warrants for service would basically do. And once again, the individuals are often identified through video when they do those crimes. But I can get that information and try to get that to you.
You had mentioned that the mental health piece was kind of missing, or that you were kind of wishing that you had the ability to have support in that area. Can you elaborate a little bit more? What do you see as being specific about how you'd like that?
A lot of times our service providers are also it's a structural thing. It's a city comprehensive approach, and that those are long-term needs, and we need those long-term treatment plans. What we'll see a lot of times is the 72-hour hold where they're able to get them individuals in crisis and maybe settled back down. But after 72 hours, they may have calmed themselves, found and settled back down, but then they may be released because there's no other place for them. So once again, it's a community aspect on that part.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to move to Health Department. Hugh Atkins, Bureau Director for Environmental Health Services.
Hey. Good evening. I am Hugh Atkins with Metro Public Health Department. And I am with the Bureau of Environmental Health Services. We do lots of things. Mostly come to mind would probably be restaurant inspections and public facility type inspections. And also I have Metro Animal Care and Control in my group as well. So like most people who have preceded me here tonight, we have limited resources and they are dedicated to the things that we normally do. But I am the representative for the health department on the Homeless Impact Division weekly calls that we have via Zoom to discuss the impact of the homeless community across Nashville, not just Brookmead. But that team that gets together, of course, is the Homeless Impact Division, and Kristen Wilson is there from the mayor's office. We have reps from Parks, Codes at times, NDOT, MNPD, and all the work they're doing. So we get together on a weekly basis and discuss what seems to be the most pressing things that we're seeing across the unsheltered homeless community across the county, all across the county. We also, being with the health department, I coordinate information that I get back to our medical director, Dr. Gil Wright, also our EPI staff headed up by Leslie Waller to track reportable diseases and report on those occasionally. So we try to coordinate our efforts together. Code sometimes has to get involved if there's going to be a fence put up, or even Metro Water may be involved if their property is impacted. Outside partners have to be involved because there are property owners around these encampments that have to agree to access and things of that nature for them to move on with their plan. Also, the health department, as far as providing services to the affected community there, supports health services for homeless communities through the Neighborhood Health Grant, and that serves a lot of the homeless population, both with regular health services and also some dental services as well. We conduct site visits with staff from our group in environmental health. They're the most appropriate group from the health department, our group that might investigate vector control or maybe even sanitary conditions related to improper sewage disposal and things of that nature. We've conducted a survey there at Brook and other encampments to report back to the group on the conditions that we see there. So we also, on one encampment that did get closed, we go in after the fact to see if maybe there's some vector control or other issues that can be addressed post cleanup to make sure you know, where the garbage was and things of that nature, that it's not rat burrows and things that will persist once the encampment is closed. So that's pretty much our involvement. My group doesn't do everything that the health department does with the homeless community, but I'm the point person on this group that meets and discusses it.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Are there any questions from the board? From Mr. Atkins? We'll come to public comment in a little bit.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
And I guess this one would probably go to Ms. Calvin. Of the $50 million in the mayor's proposal, how many people will that address? And then if y'all could remind us how many people are in the Brook encampment?
I believe the number for Brookmead floats between 45 to 50. Some of them, we have to also realize, some of them find community. That's their community as far as like friends and family. So even if they're housed somewhere during the day, sometimes we know that parks are locations where people will congregate and hang out during the day. So that's why when I say the number floats between 45 to 50, because the homelessness is fluid. What was your other question?
How many of the $50 million, how many people will that $50 million address?
So I think each bucket has a different number, but all kind of overlapping. I would say between 1,000 to 1,200 is total. What the fund is going to serve. I believe the interim communities are 400 to 500. The permanent supportive housing is between 100 to 130. And then landlord engagement and other options, the number goes up from there. The permanent supportive services that go along with that is a range between 500 to 700. And so those funds are used overlappingly for others. So it's hard for me to give you an exact number because some may use more of the funds than others.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
April, real quickly. Mr. Atkins mentioned a camp that had been closed down. Who makes that decision? Is that the health department? Is that your division? Who makes that decision and which camp got closed down?
Great question, Mr. Lattimore. I'll say that, back to your question. So it's a community decision at that point. Depending on if there's a health concern, if there's a safety concern, if there is, right now our community service providers are working on an encampment strategy where they do camp prioritization, and it's based on those things, health, safety, and that's a community decision. So and we're closely working with HUD TA as well. So as we're working to develop those plans and to get best practices from HUD TA, the decisions will be made as a community.
Thank you.
As a community of providers or as a community residents, can you define community?
As a community of providers and metro departments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? I now have my list of council members present. I apologize. Do any of our council, I apologize, I have to go back, hold on just a second. Phil Luckett, Metro Parks. I have an agenda, Phil, I apologize.
Sometimes it's not a bad thing to get left out. It's all right.
I skipped over you, I apologize. You're our people, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm Phil Luckett. I've been with Parks for about 17 years. The last 8 months, I've been in the maintenance division. Right now, the maintenance division, we take care of all parks, playgrounds, greenways. We mow about 16,000 acres are ours to mow and to take care of. And right now, we're 19 positions down. To give you an idea, that's 760 hours a week that we do not have available to us. So I say that to get to the point of, with the unsheltered community, it's not just at Brookmead, it's all over the city, downtown. And our folks are trying to be diligent about cleaning up trash and other items that I won't go into every day. And it really takes a toll on these guys and gals that work for us. And I applaud them every day. I know it's hard. I don't have to go do that. So just to look at the cleanup we had Friday before last out at Brookmead, we spent about 4 to 6 hours out there, and we had a ton of volunteers, and everybody was gung-ho. They did a great job. Cleaned up got about 300 carts back to Walmart, whether they really wanted them or not, but we got 300 carts back to Walmart and Lowe's. And there's probably about another 1,000 or more carts down there. We cleaned up 60 cubic yards of trash. We barely scratched the surface. It is, if you walk back through the whole park, there's a lot there to do. But until the community there gets helped, until those issues are solved, then a remediation of the park won't happen until that time, and we'll start that process. And what form that takes, it's obvious some of the stuff that needs to happen for the maintenance division when we go down there, but there's a lot of things that we can't see or we don't know about yet, so whatever form that takes. I appreciate all the help we get from all the other departments and from the homeless and impact division, and it really is a exciting time to be able to get these folks help. And if there's any other questions y'all have, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Question, April.
Mm-hmm.
April. So I have to ask the question, so where is in the priority of closing this encampment at Brookmead, where is that in the list, and why has it been addressed? It's just surprising that we haven't. What we just heard, it just seems like such a huge issue, as we know. I mean, it's not a surprise, of course.
Yes. The shelter committee of our COC, they are the ones that helped to draft this outdoor encampment strategy plan and the camp prioritization plan. That was just finalized last week and presented to our Homeless Planning Council board for approval, and moving forward from there. So I don't know if they've identified the camps as far as 1, 2, 3, and 4, but just want you to know that the camp prioritization is happening at this time.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions for Mr. Luckett? I want to ask, are there any comments or questions from our council members present? I do want to identify you by name. I again apologize that I didn't have your names before. We have council members Courtney Johnston, Sharon Hurt, Gloria Hauser, and Tom Druffel. Is it Druffel? Yes. We made it a luncheon. Thank you so much. Are there any comments from our council, Councilman Druffel?
Thanks for being here tonight. I know you guys have long schedules too. Just want to remind everybody that, first of all, we have to do this the right way, absolutely. But we did pass a $1.2 million package last year to revive the encampment. So I just want to remind you that that's available. when the time comes. So appreciate you getting us back in as soon as you can. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hauser.
My question is, a year from now, when we're all looking at Brookmead and the other encampments, and we see that wonderful work has been done, people are housed, now they're out of the encampments, what will parks be doing to ensure that those parks stay parks and don't become habitated again?
I think that's a really good question. Does anyone else want to lean in? Councilwoman Hauser, I think that's a very good question. As Phil noted, we have encampments all over the city, and there are some in other parks, absolutely. What we've heard tonight, I believe, is there is a desire, as April talked about, for all of these agencies to work together to address this issue. This is not something that is going to go away overnight. I will say that parks can't house people. Parks can't provide counseling. Parks can keep our property clean. We can ask for, working through, I just learned something tonight, working through April's group, figure out how to remove encampments, but we would love for our parks to be places for people to enjoy. I think I heard someone from Reclaim Brookmead say, we would love to be working, have other issues like paving and, that kind of thing, but we can't get to even to the renovations for that park. And so a year from now, we hope that we're looking at a newly renovated park. We're hoping that the plan that is before the council is approved, and we're on our way to permanent housing for persons. I heard tonight that's only part of the solution. I'm thinking people, it's an unhoused population, get them housing and resources come, but there are things that need to happen before that, and this is a community effort. And so in a year, prayerfully, all of those things are in place. That's what we would love to see for all of our parks. But as he said, there are encampments all over, and the things that we've heard tonight are solutions. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately for Brookmead, they don't get their park back tomorrow because of these things that are happening, and some things that need to happen. I'm excited to hear from April that with the passing of the $50 million, if that happens, in whatever way it does, that there are some immediate things that can certainly take place. But I appreciate the question.
Councilwoman Hauser, the one suggestion I would make is that Director Odom does more than any other department head with the least amount of money. And what the council can do a year from now, we need more money. We need more resources to address this, to work with the other agencies, to add more staff. This is a constant challenge that we have with parks, and we need more resources, and that's where the council can play a big part.
So we need you to ask for it and tell us what you'll do with it. And I don't mean that as a snide comment. I'm just saying that, I think a lot of times departments are trying to hold their budget so tight that they don't envision what they could do if they had more. And so I would challenge you, as you look at your budget for next year and going forward, to not only look at the bare bones existence, but what you could do if you had more, and tell us how that would benefit. What would be the pros and cons? So as we're weighing $1 versus another dollar, we can say this is what we get if we're able to do this. And I would encourage you to do that.
Councilwoman Johnston, thank you.
Thank you. My district is nowhere near here, but I'm assuming, that I was invited to come today because of my involvement in the COVID-19 Financial Oversight Committee that originally came up or recommended these these allocations. What I'll say is I'm excited that we're having this conversation, and I'm excited that all the departments are here and that the community is here. I think we should have had this conversation probably 10 years ago, and that's one of the reasons why we're in such a crisis, is because we're playing catch up. I'm excited about the $50 million. I was one that was very concerned about the 4 resolutions. I'm still concerned about the 4 resolutions, because what I don't want to happen is for us to allocate those dollars and it not be the solution. We still have the problem and we're out the $50 million. There are some developers that I've spoken to that have no idea how this would be beneficial to them, and it's half, 25 million of what we're talking about. So we've had some incredible questions that have come from the council about these resolutions specifically. We've just gotten those answers back. We have a meeting on the 29th that I think is going to be really interesting, as we not decide if we are going to allocate the $50 million, but how are we going to allocate those dollars? Because on our committee is tasked with allocating dollars within the federal guidelines to address problems, but to also make sure that how we're spending them is in the most effective way, an efficient way, and so that we can look back and see the impact of those dollars 10 years from now. And so, again, there's a lot of people that are in the community that are upset that we have delayed this. There's not one person on this council that is not interested in solving this problem or in allocating the dollars. I think it's just about how. And so I'm interested in that conversation as we really dive into it. Thanks.
Councilwoman Hurt.
Good evening, and thank you to the Parks Board and to the community for you all coming out once again. I debated about coming because I know that my frustrations and my passion can be misunderstood, but frankly, I am frustrated. As Councilmember Johnston said, this problem should have been addressed, she said, 10 years ago, and I would say more like 20. And I'm just the kind of person that will get it done. We have Habitat for Humanity that can build a home in a day. So I don't know why we have not been able to build homes for those who need housing in those vacant schools, hotels, motels, other types of buildings in order for there to be housing available. I think we need to understand how we got to this point. So yes, making sure we have wraparound services available, and all of those things have to be done simultaneously. You can't do one without the other. It has been a long list of priorities pushed aside, the homelessness from administration after administration after administration after administration. The administration's importance was building downtown, and it has continued to be that, to maintain downtown. While it has happened, I've seen the homeless camps on Jefferson Street. I've seen them over at Fort Negley and Tent City. I've seen them now, because they were doing development over there. They expected to do the development at Fort Negley. They moved them from there. They moved from there to Jefferson Street. Now they got gentrification going on there. They moved from there and they out in Brookmead. And the people in Brookmead have just gotten up and said, we're not going to stand for it. And they spoke up and spoke out. And now it's a problem for us to do, and along with the problem of substance abuse that is going on. And all of these things, I think, could have been handled and should have been. I'm just a pragmatic kind of person. If it were to me, because I was over there last Friday and I spent 2 hours, I would go in there and bulldoze down all of it. I'd get them all out of there. And I think that we just have to make it a priority to make sure that we care for those people that nobody wants to care for. We put them in places where they need to be placed, get them the help that they need, and we make sure that our parks are there to do what the parks are there to be for the enjoyment of the citizens of this city. So I as Councilmember Johnston said, I do believe that we want things better for our city, and we all are going to have to work at it, but I don't think this one-time $50 million is the answer. I think that we've got to do so much more. While we take care of these 2,000 people, there are 20,000 on the verge of being homeless as well. I think we have to do more to support social services because they've been handling this and I've seen where the homeless impact division was in MDHA, moved from there to social services, and it had about 4 or 5 different directors. We need consistency, and I think all of that depends on the political will. The public knows that it wants parks, and they know that they don't want homeless people who are harmful to their well-being to be prevalent in their everyday lives. So I just think that if we want to do it, we've got to step up and do all of the things that are necessary to make that happen. I guess what I'm saying is that our priority should be our people. Regardless of where they are, meet them where they are in order for them to have what it is that they need. The residents, whether they're homeless or not.
Council Lady, can I ask a quick question? In my opinion, humbly, this is a council-led government. This is not an administration, mayor-led government.
But that's not true. That's what it should be. It should be a council-led government, but it's not.
I disagree.
Have you served on the council?
I have not, but I have watched the council, and I think this is y'all's opportunity to go lead and make a difference in our city. Humbly, that's my opinion.
Well, let me tell you, I think it was the first mayor that said, I think Beverly Browley, the first mayor said that, and pardon my language, but it was printed, and it said that the Metro Council is 40 jealous whores. And I believe that's what happens, is that when the mayor goes in and decides what it is that he wants to do and how he wants to do it, or how she does it and how she wants to do it, then they go and get the people that they want to make sure that they vote the way they want them voted. So you get sidewalks, you get community centers, you get libraries, you get Bellevue high schools, you get the things that these communities ask for. You know, so it's just that way. And I hate to say it, but that's the way I see it. And I've served there for 7 years. I live in Bellevue and I worked in North Nashville, and it's a tale of two cities.
I'm going to agree with you. It is our time to lead, and I think that's what we're doing, to be honest with you. We've been given a gift by the federal government of several millions of dollars that we have allocated in really important ways thus far, and we have $50 million that the mayor has suggested that we spend to address this. I think that's a fantastic idea. I think where we are stepping up to lead is to say, wait a minute, how should we spend that? What programming? Are we making sure that if we're providing housing, that we're providing the wraparound services? Because you cannot put a roof over an issue. You have to solve the issue. You need a roof to address it, but it all has to go together. And so that's where we are stepping up to lead, to say these are our taxpayer dollars. And it's really important that we spend it in the right way so that at the end of the allocation, when the money is spent, that we can see a marked difference In the unhoused population in our city, 100%, we are leading, and I'm excited about it. Like I said before, I'm excited about this allocation. It's just what is the best way to do it? So I agree with you. I agree with you too, but I understand what you're saying. That's exactly what we're doing, is leading.
If I can ask a question that has come up for us, and Councilwoman Johnston, Hauser, and Druffel, your names are signed. On that $1.2 million, Councilman Druffel, that you mentioned, money was allocated in a resolution in the American Recovery Plan Act funds for Metro Parks to renovate and repair Brook Mead. And we've passed that. We plan to do the work, but at this point with the encampment, doing the work on renovation doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense in the park at this point. But there is a section in the language of the resolution that says no funds allocated under this resolution shall be used for the purpose or effect of removing, inconveniencing, or otherwise disturbing residents from existing homeless encampments. Nor shall any funds allocated under this resolution be used to free up resources to be used for such. There's $1.2 million that we have that's been allocated to parks that has not been spent because of this language in Section 3. And so how, for Brook Mead, what do we do? Because of the inconveniencing language, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was far away from Harriet. Because of the inconveniencing language,
no, you're absolutely right. We did that on purpose. We knew that we had to have a housing first solution. And with that, the wraparound services. So you have to do it in the right order. We know that we have to take care of this population. And I've been in there to help clean up a couple times. And by all means, you don't have to walk far to realize there's a real problem. But we have to address the problem, and I think my fellow council people have already addressed that. But some of this money, a fair amount of it, is to address the problem. $9 million for gap housing, $9 million to help wraparound services. And how we do that is really critical. And that is the purpose, to make sure we didn't go backwards, get everybody out and then fix it up, but not take care of the problem. And I think we got to take care of the problem first, which is absolutely critical. But if you ever get a chance to walk in that camp, it's truly amazing how bad people live and what they need. So we got to take care of them first, but we got to do something. I think we're all concerned that we're just sort of getting tired. I've been here 20 years, and I think at least 16 or 17 years, I'm aware that I would never go into that camp. And it's sad that some of the people in the camp themselves are scared, and it's a very dangerous place for them. So I'm hoping that this $50 million will pass. I think it should support what we're doing. Otherwise, the problem's not going to go away. I mean, you see these other big cities like LA, and it gets worse. So I think if we solve this now, we'll go a long ways to getting our camp back. But again, it's based on getting that housing first solution. Other question? No.
I just want to add that we have an opportunity at this point to plug the hole in the dike. Because if we don't plug the hole in the dike, it doesn't make any difference how many other things we do, the problem doesn't go away. So what we have an opportunity now between these two pockets of funds that we talked about, the 50 million, the 1.2 million, is plug that hole up. Get the folks that are there now on a better path and learn from what those processes teach us so that we don't get into this dramatic a place again. But it doesn't mean the end of needing to focus on homelessness. What we should be is a year from now, we'll be at a stable place so that our ongoing government and our ongoing operation budget can work on the issues. We need to bring this down to a scale that we can work on it without having to have a gift of these magic funds dropping from the sky. We have an opportunity now with these funds that are available for us to really plug that dike and start moving forward. But that doesn't mean it's the end of this. This is something 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago. It needs to be part of our mindset that we take care of all the citizens in Nashville, and we don't accept that we can just ignore a group of population. We want to bring everybody up, and we can do this. When I first moved to Nashville, one of the reasons that I chose Nashville was the fact that when I came here, I saw people that looked for solutions. They didn't just moan and groan and scream about a problem and stomp. They said, how can we fix it? And this is something that we can get on a level that we can move forward on an ongoing basis. So right now, we have the opportunity to utilize funds and plug the hole in that dike and then start working forward so that we don't get to this dramatic a situation in the future. And then we continue making this part of our ongoing psychic, of our ongoing culture of what we accept in Nashville and how we treat and respect everyone, no matter what status they are in life. But also, we're not asking neighbors to put up with a bad situation. We need the neighbors to be respected as much as the people that are in the encampment. We need to respect all of Nashville. And I'm really excited that we have an opportunity now, as I say, to plug that hole, get stable ground. It's been pretty rocky for quite a while during this entire council. We've had a tsunami of events that have happened, but we're now at a place that we can really look forward and see what do we want to be. And I appreciate your inviting everyone here today and appreciate Parks' involvement along with all the other departments and nonprofits that it's going to take for this. But I'm encouraged that we can really get a grip on this and we can move forward and we can be the city that we want to be. I just wanted to say that.
Are there any other comments from our board?
Just a comment, I think it goes without saying that metro parks are not the place for encampments. I think we all agree metro parks are not the place for encampments. I think we all agree with that.
When I asked the department, Director Odom and her team to help me to think about coordinating this meeting, I did that because I wanted to walk away with a solution. And for me, I have more questions. We don't get to a solution in the next 2 weeks. We don't get to a solution in the next 30 days. And the residents of Reclaim Brook Mead Park, the residents of Brook Mead have to live with this. I think that we are definitely going in the right direction, but we still don't have an answer for them about an answer for how we give them back their park before the end of the year, in the next couple of weeks, in the next 30 days. Say again. So it is the department, the board, it is our position that we want to house first, that we want to be a good partner, but at the end of the day, Metro Parks is the property owner. And at the end of the day, we are the property owner. Again, we can't build houses. We cannot provide counseling. We can't provide those services that are needed. We can definitely do cleanups. We've done cleanups. But as I keep missing your, Mr. Luckett has said, I'm sorry, you are very memorable. As Mr. Luckett has said, you know, the cleanup a couple of weeks ago still didn't really put a dent in the issue. And so, again, what is the answer? We want to be a partner. We want to work with the council. We want to work with the mayor's office, but this board is being asked to do something. And tonight, I wanted to do something. So I guess I want to open this up for public comment. I know that you had in the orange shirt that you had a comment, maybe a question that you want to ask. We want to do that. And if you could, no longer than 3 minutes for questions. We don't want to be here all night. Okay. Y'all want to be here all night? Please come to the podium so that we can hear you. We've not been able to hear, and I apologize for that. I can hear myself, but y'all can't hear me.
I am so honored to be here. I don't know if any of y'all know me. I'm Chris Scott. Remember the Fort Negley experience, the movie St. Cloud Hill, where they tore down, that was the first camp they tore down. That was me. I went out to Brook Park before I came over here to take a look and see what it looks like and talk to some of the people. And I always live by this. There's some you can help, some you can't, move on to the next. And I looked at the problem that you got, and I know the Parks Department wants to find a solution. They want to find a solution tonight. And I'm making myself available. Okay, I think the first thing that needs to be done is all the shopping carts need to be towed out with a little quad runner or something and some chains. And one by one, they need to be pulled off the side with the chains and then dragged out and dragged back to Walmart. Over and over again. I did this by hand, and I carried week after week after week. I did this by hand a couple of years ago, okay? I can't do as many carts as you have there, but I do want to get the carts out, and that will be the first step. And the second step is to start the cleanup. But the cleanup starts from the back end, from the very back end. And as we move forward, as we move out, they know that we're coming, and they know that it's coming. And we work on getting the people out. We'll give them a little time even after we get that, but nobody moves in behind us. We get that area cleaned out, and nobody moves in behind us, and we work our way out, little by little, slowly but surely, helping each person as we go along. And I've already got volunteers. I talked to people who are volunteers. I saw some of these people with the pioneer spirit who are actually, you know, I commend that. I applaud that pioneer spirit. And Parks aren't a place for camps. That's true. The Parks Department should have a responsibility for certain camps and certain areas that are made for camps. That should be part of their responsibility. And we should be able to build these camps, do something with these camps. We got winter coming. These people are going to be freezing out here. There's not enough housing. You want to do something with that money? What do we need? Water, sewer, and electric coming up out of the ground. We'll put a micro house on top of it over and over again. Make them an offer they can't refuse. Make them an offer. Okay, to start with, very first thing to start with, if you want to contract me out, I want to tow all those carts out. And that's where you want to start. I'll get that done for you. Day after day until we get all the carts out. And then we'll go to the back and we'll take out the garbage. And I'll get these people to help me. You can pay them too. I'll get the homeless people that are living there to help me do this. And I've already got volunteers, so it's in your hands. You got the money? I'm willing to help. I've done it before. I got a movie saying how I did it. I had 60 people. The Parks Department, the county commissioners, they took everything I owned and they threw it in the back of a dumpster. I lost thousands of dollars worth of equipment. I've said enough.
Thank you.
You got the gist of it.
Can you tell me your name for the record, please?
They used to call me the captain. Chris Scott Fieselman. I write in the contributor every issue. You've probably seen my work, songwriter, all that.
Thank you, Chris.
But I'm available. You say the word, and we'll get that place cleaned up. Yes, you can get something done. I showed up here. You can.
Thank you.
Chris is 100% right because it worked at Fort Negley.
Thank you, Chris.
Hello. My name is Mary Bird, known as Dee Dee. I'm the Vice President of Reclaim Brook Mead Park. I talked to the Park Board last week at their Tuesday monthly meeting. We have been for over a year going to every monthly Park Board meeting, every weekly continuum of care for the homeless meeting, every homeless planning council meeting. We as a group wanted last year to understand what happened to Brook Mead. Why were people overdosing on our sidewalks? Why did all of our businesses have to sign a no trespassing waiver to help with the predators that had descended upon this park that were ruining our way of life? We're not talking about the most vulnerable individual that is experiencing chronic homelessness. That's not who we're talking about. We're talking about what happens to a park and greenway, and it is the only park and greenway in Davidson County that has this type of camp. There are homeless issues everywhere, like Centennial Park. We're aware of that. But we feel, I've lived in this community for over 30 years. before Walmart, before Lowe's, before Brookmead Park. And we always knew there was a homeless situation there, but they floated a sign and they were kind people who just couldn't find a place. We understood that, but that's not what's happening now. And we feel that it was the park board's failure in the beginning to protect this parking greenway. The laws and the ordinances that protect us as a community were not fulfilled. And this park was allowed to grow into a homeless encampment. We will acknowledge that COVID allowed it to explode. And that is one of the things you have to understand what COVID did to Brookmead Park and Greenway. It exploded that camp. So here we are, all roads lead to the mayor. Now, council holds the purse strings, and we've been witnessing that. We have spoken to the council. We have argued with many council members repeatedly. We've had to have dialogue with some of the council members. Dave Rosenberg, who is District 35, where Brookmead is located, who is not here tonight, won't even talk to us, even though we're the community. We are the community of Brookmead. So we challenge you to open up a dialogue, not only with the council member and council members and the mayor, but with the community that is affected, the businesses that, over 17 businesses have had to sign no trespassing waivers. So I know that as a park board that you can organize a committee and you can appoint a non-park board member to that committee to help solve an issue. And I challenge you to do that with Brookmead. Find a community member. It doesn't have to be someone from our board. It has to be someone that has a true vested interest in what happens to Brookmead. And we will not be deterred, and we will stay with this until the individuals are served in that park. You have to start somewhere. So we think this $50 million, even if it's not a successful program with the $25 million, bring the individuals back. April, all these people that work so hard, these outreach workers, bring them back in 3 months, 6 months, and evaluate what the programs are doing. Are they successful? Did we get these people housed before cold weather got here? I think that there's plenty of property and buildings where we can make this happen before winter comes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Ann Tidwell, and I've worked with Greenways for 22 years. I was on the Greenways, still am chairman of the Greenways Commission. And I remember when Brookmead Park was just an idea that we had. And we raised money from individuals, from corporations. Those very businesses that are now being stolen from every day gave the property. They gave money to set aside Brookmead Park as a park for the citizens of Nashville and Bellevue, for our children, for places to walk, for people who worked at those stores, for places for anybody who wanted to be in nature, to have a quiet time, to have lunch, whatever they wanted. And I've just been appalled at what has happened. And it's a huge problem. And I want to thank you on the park board who work as volunteers so hard to make Nashville a better place. I think that's amazing. And I want to thank all of you who came out tonight to try to find the solution. And it's not easy, I know that. I just want to point out a couple of things. One is, in the state parks, they don't have a homeless problem. At Radnor Lake, there's not a single person who's ever spent the night, overnight, at Radnor Lake, because they're asked to leave. And all of the state parks, I know it's a different government, it's different rules, but they have not allowed the first person to come and camp unless they're at a campground, unless they have a permit, etc. But in regular natural areas and parks, they don't have the problem. I don't think they're kinder than we are. I don't know. And the other thing is, I'm afraid as much money as we spend, $50 million is a lot of money, but we cannot solve the homeless problem because if we move these people out, more people come. We're part of a community. We're part of a state. There are other 49 states around us. They come from California, Mexico, but citizens of the United States still. People are in low times. Maybe they come to Nashville to try to sing and be a star or whatever, but if it doesn't happen, then they're homeless. And I think if we just move people into homeless, I've been to several of these meetings, and it's depressing because sometimes agencies will say, well, in the last month we housed, and there'll be a number. Last year we housed, and it'll be 200 and some odd people, but there's still more people. So if Brookmead is down to between 40 and 50, that's better than it has been. It has been more than that. So I think we're making progress, but if we house these people and give them services and treatment and drug training, I'm afraid more people will come. So the other thing, I was sorry that the park board is not in charge of our parks. I think you should be the ones who make the rules. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is really hard for me to Rebecca Lowe. I'm the president and founder of Reclaim Brookmead Park. And I'll just make a statement that the reason I'm the founder and president of Brookmead Park, Reclaim Brookmead Park, is because I moved to Nashville for quality of life, period. I didn't need to be anywhere but near an airport. I chose West Nashville because I could afford it, and it was nice, and I liked the proximity to the West Nashville area, the new Target. The Walmart was one of the best in the country, and I've traveled all over the country, and I know. And it is now a laughingstock. People are now talking about it. Like, this is what they talk about on Nextdoor, how we should be driving 20 minutes down to Fairview to that Walmart. The reason I'm the president is because I said, why is no one doing anything? How is this happening here? Everybody can see what's happening on the West Coast. We know there's a homelessness problem. Who's dropping the ball? It's been 75 minutes since this show started, and last time I checked, you had top billing, the Parks Board, and other than Mr. DeLay, nobody has stepped up and owned this. We would not be here if you had treated our park like all the other parks. It's very difficult for me to say this because I don't want this fight to continue. I want to negotiate. I want to be friends of Brookmead Park. So I don't want to dress you down in front of the public, but y'all have got to step up and say, you know what, maybe it was you personally, maybe it was the board, I don't know, but you dropped the ball because the fact of the matter is nothing comes close in your parks that is on the level of the encampment in Brookmead Park. And if you haven't been there, you really need to go there. I can't believe you haven't. I'm glad you're having these discussions. But you need to understand, or I would like you to understand, that the public gets insulted when we see things like this. This beautiful pamphlet that came out, Nashville's Greenway Maps. And there we are. We were glad we were there. We were glad to see that we were still there. But it's as if you didn't realize that we can't go there, that we've been told not to go there, that you've got over 12 violations of ordinances. We pointed this out to you a year ago. Not the least of which is no camping overnight. Are you aware of the deed? Are you aware of how you got Brookmead Park? You paid $10 for it to a wonderful family that donated the land for one purpose, a park. A needed park for this little corner of Nashville. And in Exhibit A, it says, the subject property shall be used only for a park and/or greenway and no other purpose. This restriction shall run with the land and shall be for the benefit of the grantor and all present or future owners of the various tracts described in number 1 above. number 1 above says, persons traveling to or from the subject property and/or those utilizing the subject property shall have no right to park vehicles on any portion of the adjoining property, being the shops tract, Walmart tract, Lowe's tract, etc., the marketplace, as shown on the unified plat of subdivision of the marketplace of record and instrument, blah, blah, blah. It's not very complicated. I hope that you will consider a detailed plan, the same way we're demanding a detailed plan from our council as to how they're planning to spend the money. We could not agree more with Councilwoman Johnston. It's not, I have a feeling the money is going to be passed. That's not even a concern personally of mine. It's how it's going to be passed. So I applaud that. I hope that you get together with them and everybody talks about that. But I also hope, I'll wrap it up, I really hope that we can pivot, switch gears, and start talking to the public about what the plan is. I understand that you don't know what it is yet. It's hinging on other things with the Homeless Impact Division, et cetera. But you have an idea. You know that the encampment is going to not be there soon. So what's your plan? What do you plan on doing when that day comes? Start talking to us about it, telling us what we can look forward to. Or are you just gonna let it go back and we won't have a park anymore? Because that's been thrown around too, and we're a little worried about that. We hope that you love our park as much as we'd like to love it, and we hope that you'll communicate with us and give it back to us the way it was rightfully meant to be. Thank you.
My name is Tim Tomes with Reclaim Brook Park. Dr. Steele, at the last meeting we spoke, you were kind enough to come up. Really, I really appreciated you speaking to me about the issue with the children and what my grandchild has to see 2 or 3 times a week every time she goes to school. Even though I could not show the council members those adult pictures because I was told that it was unacceptable, yet my granddaughter can see those live every day. I question Metro Council on why they can't see it, but yet young children have to see it. We've been coming to y'all for a year and a half. You know that. Monique knows us very well. And this doesn't necessarily go back to just you, because the mayor himself said the other day, Kristen, this was a problem for 20 years. He publicly said that for 20 years. So it's not just on y'all. It's not just on Cooper. It's on the city. All these past administrations that have sat back and done nothing, organizations that refund money. We got public record of money that Parks has given back to the general fund in the last 4 years. So to you, Mr. Haynes, about wanting and needing more money, my question would be why? You've given back, do you have any idea how much you've given back to the general fund in the last 4 years? Because we can tell you. So always wanting more money is not going to solve the problem, but use what you have. The other thing I'd like to say is that it's incredibly disappointing to be called names, to be called hate group, hate speeches, when the vitriol is being just spewed all over the place. Yet from the very beginning of our inception, our mission was this: to get the people in the park the help they needed, to get the housing they needed, all the wraparound services. We said this from day one. Yet the mayor's office has chosen to call us names. Dave Rosenberg has called us names. Jenny Welsh has called us names. They want to name call instead of doing anything about it. They want to blame, when all we're trying to do is get the help for those people that they need. Seriously. So I'm not here to jump down your throats at all. But what I would like to see you do, I think a lot of people in this room would like to see you do, is communicate with us much more often and say, look, this is what we're doing. We also are aware that there's only so much you can do because the administration only allows so much to be done. You're dealing with the mayor and the city council, and you got this going on over here and this going on over here. And the thing that I spoke to the city council about last week, once I asked 2 council members to pay attention, that were so disrespectful, was to stop bickering amongst yourselves. Stop bickering. You know, put your foot down, do something, and make something happen, and show the citizens of Davidson County that we're no longer going to be one of those cities on the map that people can go look at and go, oh, look, you can come here, because they just love to give you free stuff. So all of us need to work together and get this done, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gower Mills. I'm not a part of Reclaim Brookmead, but I want Brookmead back. For years, I'm a 10th generation Nashvilleian. It goes back to the beginning of Nashville. My 5, 6, and 7 great-grandfathers were with James Robertson when Nashville was founded. As I said, my name, Gower, that's the same as the Gower Elementary School, named after my 5 greats-of-a-grandfather, Reverend William Gower. Every day that I go by that park, when I go there to Walmart or Lowe's or one of the other businesses with my wife, I have to look at the disgust that's going on in that park. Sure, it's full of homeless people, yeah. But also I heard the captain talking about they issue citations for theft. I'm wondering if, well, they do the warrants for the thefts. How many of those are citations that are issued and then the person never shows up for court? So they have an FTB or an FTA for them not showing up, more warrants. How many of them are wanted somewhere in America for crimes that here y'all are talking about they're wanting to give them housing? I don't want to give housing to a criminal. I worked for the Department of Corrections for 20 years. I retired from them. My family is law enforcement family. I want this city to be back safe from anything and everything that's going on. I have empathy and sympathy for them, but if you remember a story that was on Channel 4 about a month ago, I walked that park. I counted over 650 carts back there. I took about 40 pictures and sent them to Channel 4. It was ridiculous. I had one person that was got out of his little tent and said, "What the hell you think you're doing?" I said, "I'm doing whatever I want to. I'm a taxpayer. I pay taxes for you to be squandering in this area." They've had to start locking up the bikes in Walmart because the homeless people go in there and ride them out. I counted 3 or 4 generators back in that area where they're watching TVs and listening to radios because they're siphoning gas to be able to operate them from people's cars. This was great for the cleanup that they did. They need to do it a lot more. Get these people that are supposed to be on probation, get them out there. Give them 2-for-1 days for doing cleanups. Whatever y'all can do, or whatever anyone can do, any organization, not just y'all, but unfortunately, y'all are the ones that's getting the brunt of everything because y'all are Metro Parks. But thank you very much, and hopefully I can see my park coming back to the taxpayers in West Nashville and Nashville-Davidson County.
Hi, my name's Karen Rich. My husband and I own some property off River Road. We're just down the river from the encampment. We bought this property in 2013, and let me tell you, it was the most amazing land upriver from us. We would kayak up there and kayak into the creek bed, and nobody was there. It was the most gorgeous property. We would go and park and we would walk in and we would read the historic markers about this land and what went on in this area. And you're like, wow, I mean, Nashville has some really cool stuff going on, and what a gift. All of the metro parks are just such a gift. And so over the years, we noticed, people slowly starting to kind of show up. And there would be semi-permanent structures starting to be built. And then it just snowballed. And before you know it, you couldn't walk down there. There was no way. It's not safe. But it's not just in the park itself. It's not safe at the intersection of Charlotte and River Road. It's not safe. There are constantly people drugged out who are standing literally on the edge of the road and about to tumble in. You see prostitution, you see drug use, you see people living in the culverts at the intersection. It's dangerous, and it shocks me that the police department does not enforce law in the area. So I understand, like Metro Parks, you're parks. You're not law enforcement. So I really can't understand why our police department isn't doing more to protect the property and the area for the citizens. Since we bought the property, there have been 4 enormous apartment complexes built in the area, and I'm sure they're still coming. So each of those complexes, I think, probably hold 1,000 plus people, more, I would imagine, really. That's a lot of people. So all of this conversation about the homeless and what we need to do, I agree. It's never gonna be a problem that can be fully solved. It is an ongoing problem. But all of our conversation has been focused on the negative aspects of what's happened to this park, rather than really focusing on what this property really needs to be for thousands of people who live now within a 4th mile vicinity, who have nowhere else to go without getting in their cars and driving some distance to have some kind of outdoor time, outdoor exercise, fresh air, not to mention the quality of what's going on the river. So we do live downriver, and the trash is unreal. I'm surprised that the Army Corps isn't brought in, because frankly, some of that park is Army Corps property, or under their jurisdiction, I should at least say. It's also flood zone. It seems like, there's a lot of people turning their heads and not doing their jobs. I think the police department needs to enforce the law and get in there and start getting people out. With the metro, with the money given, yes, let's relocate. But like some people have said, some of the people who are there don't want to be housed. They just want to live free. And I don't think it's fair to the 4,000 or 5,000, not to mention that's just the apartment residents. That's not even including the neighborhood residents that aren't getting to use a park because there's 20 to 50 people holding it hostage. So I appreciate that you all are limited in what you can do, but I would suggest that if Metro Parks is not able to take care of a park, it's gotten out of their control financially or physically with cleaning up and not having the manpower, sadly, maybe it should be sold. Maybe it should be sold to a private developer, and then it's private property once again. I mean, I don't think any of us want that. We would love the park, but I think that is a solution that would take crime, at least, out of the neighborhood. And I think no crime would be better than having no park. But we'd all love a park. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the board or any questions? I apologize, I didn't see you.
Well, thank you very much. Rick Williams, native Nashvilleian. Full disclosure, I think I've known Mr. Haynes' family probably 40 years if we go back that far, but Anyway, I'm here tonight. Dr. Steele, you mentioned the fact that you'd like to see some solution. You all actually own a park across the river upstream at the end of Toon Airport. And that park could easily be a relocation spot for everyone in the current park. And somewhere in Metro government, I'm not, maybe the Homeless Impact Division can tell me, those tiny homes were bought during COVID. There's anywhere from 50 to 75 of those. Probably in 30 to 60 days, somebody could go in that other park, put some structure in, water, electricity, put those tiny homes there, and you could rehouse everyone out of Brookmead and to come, I think it's Cumberland Park. Is that it, Ms. Odom, Cumberland Park? Is that the name of the park at the end of Cockrell Bend Park? And I don't ever see Metro ever developing that park because it's kind of an industrial area, because you've got it posted not to go on there that it's park property. But it's a nice tract of land right on the river. It'd be a great place to take those folks and at least get them in something for the winter until the Homeless Impact Division comes up with something better. But the tiny homes are bought, they're there, the land's there. I don't think it would take much to run some water and electricity there and some portable facilities for them. It'd be a way to rehouse them quickly, have them in a heated area by this winter, and that would be a good thing. So I just thought I'd bring that up to you. Thank you.
Thank you. One more comment. Thank you.
I'll be brief, I promise. I think what we've come away with, or what I've come away with in this meeting, is that there's an extreme level of frustration with everyone in the room. The most important are our constituents, our taxpayers, in my mind. But our maintenance division is frustrated. Our police department is frustrated. Our parks board is frustrated. Our council is frustrated because we have a problem that it takes every single one of us to have a solution. What I would ask of the Parks Board as we leave here with, what are our next steps? You are sort of handcuffed in a certain way because we can't move the problem to another park. Then we just are creating another problem somewhere else. And you can't do anything to make the park better until we rehouse or help the people that need help in there. What I would ask of you is to create a policy where, what is the policy to keep the park, once we restore it back to a park, what is the policy to keep it a park, to keep it a greenway? Because right now we have a bathtub, and we can scoop the water out of the bathtub, whether we use big buckets or we use coffee mugs. But if the faucet is still on, we have really done nothing. We have spent $50 million for nothing because they're just gonna come right back. They either cycle back out because we have not given them the services that they need, or we have a new fresh set that comes in. So what is the policy to turn off the faucet, to keep these parks and encampments closed? So I would say to the administration and to the council, what is the policy to keep these encampments, whether it's on parks property or an intersection or whatever? When we close an encampment, how do we keep it closed? Again, that's one of my biggest concerns about expending this money right now, because if we can't solve the problem once and for all, we really haven't solved the problem and we've wasted the money. So let's have that comprehensive plan. What do we do in the short term? What do we do in the long term? What I would tell the community is there has never been this amount of dialogue among the community, among Metro departments, cohesively and comprehensively on this subject, I don't think ever. And so that should be exciting, that we are talking about this. We do have the funding. We will find a way. We are going to expend this money. We are going to invest this money to solve this problem. We just need to do it in the right way. And so what should we look forward to? That solution, and it's coming in the next few months. So I want people to leave here with hope that we are having the conversation, we have ideas, and we all are interested very, very deeply in solving this problem the right way, a fast way, but in a permanent way.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Johnson. Those are some of the thoughts that I was having leaving here. Where do we go from here? I apologize. Yes, one more.
one thing about it that you need is a permanent solution. I mean, you can throw money.
Tell me your name, please. Your name, please,
Oh,
your name.
Edward, my name's Edward Caldwell.
Thank you.
At least I'm not running for council at large right now, which is a good thing. But the thing of it is, you need a permanent solution. And, you know, there's going to be temporary things you have to do until you can get a permanent solution. But the thing of it is, my idea is not really left field that far. If you purchase land, or you have land where you can put farms on that land and put the homeless people farming their own land, then they can pay for their own bills without taxpayers having to pay for it. And taxpayers will love it because they hate spending money on somebody else that, you know, if homeless, the Amish people, they make things, they sell things, they produce their own food, they produce their own living. They don't have to have taxpayers' money to do it. I mean, I know that you got cold weather coming up and you're going to have to put them in some places out of the code because, I mean, you can't do it. But as far as a long-term situation, an Amish farm is not really that far out of the thoughts because, you know, that way they can support their own self without taxpayers having to keep paying the bills, you know, and they could get out there and farm their own land. You get out there and maybe have some educational programs come in and teach some educational things on the farm. Have them come in and teach them different trades and different things on the farm. But if you put them on a farm, you get them away from the businesses that are fed up with them coming in, hounding people trying to come in their business for money. You know, our place, Nashville, is set up on tourists. If we run the tourists off, we won't have no money. You know, we've got a serious problem with these homeless people. You know, all you got to do is watch the news and you can see that. But if you put them out on a farm away from the businesses, you can help them make their own living and teach them different trades. Have people come into the place and teach them trades to help them, give them a hand up instead of a handout. That's just my comment.
Thank you. We've heard a lot this evening. Was saying that Councilwoman Johnston has said many of the thoughts that I had around, and the last gentleman that just spoke, around permanent solutions and a plan. Ms. Byrd has asked for the committee now twice, and so we will get together, think about, and discuss solutions and communicate those as has been requested. Thank you all so much for being here this evening. Thank you for your comments. Again, a lot to consider, a lot to think about. Metro Parks is a property owner. We can take care of the problem today, and I hate to call people a problem, so excuse that language. But we want to be a partner, and so there are things that absolutely can be done, and we will work towards those solutions. Having nothing else on the agenda, I will call this meeting adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.